Welcome to my channel Car Auto, ladies and gentlemen. A realistic military illustration of the Iranian Khaibar, Khorramshahr MRBM, IRBM system. Beneath a brooding sky that stretches endlessly over the vast Iranian desert, a single missile system stands poised, silent yet thunderous in potential. It is the Khaibar missile, also known as Khorramshahr, one of the most formidable indigenous ballistic missile developments from the Islamic Republic of Iran. In this highly detailed military illustration, the scene captures the precise moment before the beast awakens, a solemn convergence of engineering, deterrence, and national power. The setting is unmistakably arid. The desert plain sprawls like a canvas of dust and heat, punctuated by sharp ridgelines in the distance and windswept dunes that bear the memory of countless drills and strategic mobilizations. The air is thick with particles of sand and kinetic tension, swirling around boots, tires, and the angled shadows of men and machines alike. At the center of this composition is the Khaibar MRBM, IRBM, towering over everything around it. It is immense, nearly 13 meters in length, with a girth that announces its heavy payload capabilities. Its olive drab body, faintly weathered by time and elements, bears the unmistakable tone of military-grade hardware. In places, subtle patches of gray camouflage break the monotony, blending the missile's surface into the mottled hues of the desert. Missile design. Form follows function. The missile's shape is sleek but robust. Its cylindrical form tapers to a conical nose cone that houses the warhead, potentially conventional or unconventional, depending on strategic objectives. The aft section is bulkier, indicative of the large liquid-fueled propulsion unit inherited from previous missile generations like the North Korean HWASONG-10, Musudan, on which the Khorramshahr design is partly based. But the Khaibar is more than a replica. It is Iran's heavily modified, domestically engineered evolution, boasting an estimated range of 2,000 kilometers and capable of carrying a warhead as heavy as 1,500–1,800 kilogram. Intricate Persian script is stenciled along the fuselage in deep black and white ink, the curves of the calligraphy fluid yet stern. These markings often include inspirational slogans or Quranic verses, sometimes stating the missile's name, Khaibar, a reference to the historic Battle of Khaibar, linking technological might with ideological resolve. Each rivet, each seam along the missile's length is rendered in photorealistic precision, speaking to the craftsmanship that went into the system. The warhead shroud features heat-resistant plating, hinting at re-entry capabilities and aerodynamic control surfaces that improve accuracy upon terminal descent. The telephone vehicle. Mobility and readiness. Beneath the missile is the transporter erector launcher, telephone, a massive 8-axle wheeled vehicle engineered for strategic mobility and rapid deployment. Its frame is painted in the same olive and gray color scheme as the missile, but caked with dust and bearing the scars of travel over harsh terrain. The TEL's tires are enormous, each fitted with deep treads that have torn through both asphalt and sand. Mudguards, railings, and hydraulic stabilizers are all shown in exquisite detail. On the side of the telephone, a small Iranian flag waves gently in the desert wind, its red, white, and green colors faded slightly but proud. Metal toolboxes, antenna arrays, and reinforced driver compartments all add to the technical fidelity of the illustration. The hydraulic system, used to raise the missile from a horizontal to a vertical firing position, is locked in place, suggesting imminent launch or drill readiness. The entire telephone missile system is surrounded by a ring of personnel, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps (IRGC) members clad in desert fatigues, flak jackets, and tactical gear. Their uniforms are realistic. Sleeves rolled to the elbow, sand goggles pushed up on helmets, patches displaying IRGC insignia. Some carry communications equipment. Others hold standard-issue rifles, but most focus intently on the operation underway. Environmental and atmospheric elements. Above it all looms the dramatic sky, a storm on the edge of breaking, symbolic of the geopolitical undertones that always accompany such imagery. Thunderheads roll in from the west, casting long, fractured shadows across the desert floor. Shafts of sunlight pierce the cloud breaks, highlighting portions of the missile and telephone in cinematic splendor. Dust, kicked up by the breeze and the TEL's movement, wraps the lower part of the scene in a sepia-toned haze, softening the image's harsh metallic lines. Cinematic lighting enhances the textures. The matte finish of the missile, the gritty realism of the personnel's gear, the polished sheen on exposed metal parts of the vehicle. This interplay of light and shadow not only gives a sense of three-dimensionality but heightens the tension. It is the calm before a metaphorical, or literal, storm. In the background, beyond the central action, additional elements add realism and depth. A small command outpost with camouflage netting, satellite communication dishes, and perhaps even faint silhouettes of other TELs positioned farther afield, indicating that this is not an isolated display but part of a broader strategic movement. Symbolism and strategic narrative. The illustration does more than depict a missile, it tells a story of national resolve and asymmetric deterrence. The Khaibar missile, by virtue of its range and payload, represents Iran's commitment to maintaining a second strike capability and strategic depth in the face of external pressures, sanctions, and perceived threats from regional or Western powers. Its ability to reach targets across the Middle East, including Israel, U.S. bases in the Gulf, and parts of Eastern Europe, makes it a central pillar in Iran's deterrent doctrine. The desert setting underscores self-reliance. Iran has built and deployed these systems not from lush industrial parks but from austere and strategically dispersed environments. The personnel shown in the image are not parade soldiers, they are the backbone of a defense infrastructure hardened by decades of hybrid warfare, cyber operations, and sanctions-era innovation. The Persian script acts as a visual bridge between heritage and hardware, between the cultural legacy of Iran and the modernity of its military doctrine. It reminds the viewer that weapons, in Iran's portrayal, are not just tools, they are ideological instruments. Technical and artistic composition. From an illustration standpoint, the artist's attention to technical fidelity is outstanding. Every component of the telephone, from the hydraulics to the launch command interface, is true to known designs. The missile's dimensions and paint scheme match reference photos from military parades and test launches. The light rendering makes use of high dynamic range principles, with crisp highlights and deep shadows that guide the viewer's eye to the missile's tip, symbolizing potential kinetic release. The dust cloud is rendered with volumetric softness, blurring edges around the tires and boots, creating a believable interaction between environment and object. Textures on fatigues, vehicle hull, and missile plating differ subtly, emphasizing material realism. Cotton, rubber, alloy, and ceramic all reflect light differently, and the image accounts for this. Cinematic framing places the viewer slightly below the missile's base, looking upward at a 45-degree angle. This low-angle shot reinforces the monumental scale of the missile and invokes a feeling of awe or apprehension. It is both a celebration of indigenous capability and a subtle message of geopolitical assertion. Conclusion. A scene of readiness and resolve. The scene is not one of war, but of readiness, a portrait of latent force. This is a missile system designed to deter, not necessarily to fire. Yet the posture, the tension in the stance of the operators, and the humming power of the telephone all suggest that it could launch within minutes if the command were given. In the grand chessboard of military capabilities, the Khaibar Khorramshahr missile system is Iran's knight, mobile, angular, and capable of striking where least expected. This illustration captures that essence in a frame that blends realism, symbolism, and strategic narrative into a single, unforgettable moment in time. For more Irani missile videos, please subscribe to my channel Car Auto.